What's up, party people? BV here, and welcome to another episode of Retail Media Vibes, a Doing Business in Bentonville podcast. This show is part of the Doing Business in Bentonville Media Network, where we work to demystify and advance omni-channel retail. We're recording live here in Rogers, Arkansas at Podcast Videos Studios, and we have a banger of a show for you today. So in studio with me today is going to be Erin Campbell, and we'll get to meet her in just a minute. And our rundown of our main topics today are the new shopper, attention in an age of digital overload. We have the rise of secondhand shopping, and the analog experience is back. So those will be our main topics for us today. So a lot to get into. I'm really excited to hear what Erin has to say. So with that, let's get a chance to meet Erin. All right, Erin, before we jump into some really big topics, big meaty topics today, let's kick off with a little vibe check, get to know you a little bit for the listeners. And so let's just start off with pretty easy, a little bit about Erin and, your background and what would you say you do?
You think that's easy, but for an Enneagram 6 who's an introvert, that's the most terrifying question that...
Okay. All right. Well, lay it on us.
Well, because I've had the pleasure of working with you for very many years and then staying your friend and your professional peer, which has been really fun to see us both explore and evolve into new and different things. And this feels... Congratulations. This feels so cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I've had a really, I call the trifecta of experience in brand and CPG and business, where I've had the opportunity to service both big and small brands on the agency side, as well as build my own brand, my own CPG brand myself, and really learn the ins and outs of how you build something from a white piece of paper, bring value and meaning to it from the retailer side, from the business side, from the consumer side. And then also I dipped my toe on the retailer side as well. And so I've got to see across those three verticals and the continuum from startup to really, really mature companies. But what I really say is I like to think of myself as a brand and growth strategist. And right now I'm in the spot where I'm really advising really kind of startup brands, primarily female founders, and really supporting them to find and scale on their own terms. And when I say scale, I mean their P&L, their growth, but also their purpose and their impact that they're having on the community and the tribe and the audience that they serve, and also scaling their mental health, because it's not great if you have a founder burning at both ends and then they don't get to leave their legacy that fueled them in the first place.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Definitely a bingo card of, experiences that you've had. And, I recollect when we first started working together, and your insight into, shopper behavior is how I got to know you, and shopper strategy and all around that. And, it's been great to see you, grow your career and grow your opportunities into all those things that you mentioned before. So excited again to have you on the show. So let's do a few little icebreaker questions, a little vibe question, a few vibe questions.
I'm going to pass.
You will pass. Okay. Definitely. Nobody has failed yet. And so,
always the first time.
But, what's the last impulse buy you've made online?
So it was actually this morning. So
what?
I know. I know.
It's real time.
Real time.
Are you shopping as we're having this conversation?
Absolutely. Okay, yeah. Cool. Yeah. So, it was the chip that's inside my head.
Or agentically.
Exactly. So it's November, and starting in November, I make TikTok gift guides like my entire personality. I just love consuming these curated gifts with the hope I can find the perfect gift. And I end up buying a lot of stuff for myself, as a byproduct.
So you're curating the content?
Or I am relying on other curators who say, here's the cool girl gift guide, or here's the guide for the hard to buy boy tween. Or if you have a cool guy in your life, then here's what they really want. Because I let people who have more time and more interest do all the hard work, and then I just get to reap their benefits. But one particular, there's a lot of repeats. And so I've now been able to see kind of I should write a trend report actually about.
I'm thinking about that. You should, write that for Retail Media Vibes.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
come on, we'll start the newsletter.
I love it. But there was this, I love athleisure. I love athleisure that kind of gives you a personality. And I came across this brand that I'd never heard of. Maybe you have Dandy brands. They do hoodies. They're
I love a good hoodie.
They're very cute.
Definitely a way underrated garment.
Absolutely. And one that has a expressive point of view is even better, that can transpose a message between the wearer and the bystander. And this one, they had a lot of great, like, let's go on an adventure. Let's go on a road trip. Let's watch sunsets. But mine said your daily affirmations. And then it was like a kind of map of, I've got you. You got this. I love you. I hear you. And so I can't wait to wear it.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah. So, gift guide for others that.
Yeah, what's interesting about that garment is just like it feels like it's putting the user into an experience of some sort. And obviously, it's going to depend on the motif of the garment, right? But it is really interesting.
Yeah, so. And it invites a conversation. Yeah. It expresses a personality while being comfortable all in one.
I like it. Yeah. So I love nostalgia. Okay, I like thinking about what's happened in the past and how it impacts the future. But if you were going to bring a retailer from the past back, who would that be? Or what retailer would that be? Yeah,
no, that's a really great question because we live and breathe retail.
Yeah.
And, I think I find retail really, really interesting. So, kind of Blockbuster came. I know, was it Brad who said Blockbuster?
Tom. Yeah, it's Tom. Yeah.
Tom said Blockbuster, and then even like Radio Shack, because there's this very nostalgic feeling of when I was a teenager going to the mall with my parents. But I really think Body Shop is great example of a retail experience. Yeah. Sensorial, it was curated, and it was really kind of this disruptor in the beauty space when clean beauty and kind of ethical standards were really not in the conversation yet. Yeah. And I have these very vivid memories of going and finding them in airports when I was a young adult or even an older teen. And so they're connected to these very powerful memories or this feeling of anticipation, of wonder, and they put a sensorial place marker to that memory with their trial of the scrubs and the lotions, and then the very fruity, earthy, wonderful scents that they have as soon as you walk into the door. So they may still be around, but they're just not as prolific as they used to be.
Yeah, actually gave me an idea for another topic another day is like retail at airports, right? And like, some of the opportunities there as well.
Absolutely.
So thanks for the idea. I'll credit you the next time I have that up on the cast. All right, so this one's a little bit of a fun one. So recently, Taco Bell partnered with Venmo to create a Taco Belt holster. So it's exactly what you would think it is.
Absolutely. I've waited this my whole life.
It's a belt, leather belt, has a holster on it specifically for a taco. They gave it out to like 75 people who were randomly reward members, etc. So, the Taco Belt holster. What other fast food item needs a holster? Here's mine.
Okay. You better not steal mine.
Oh, well, maybe mine.
Oh, gosh, okay.
I think there should be a chicken nugget fanny pack.
Oh, okay.
And with a little cup, sauce cup holder, right? So I think, you get your pack with all your nuggets in there and you pull one out and you dip it in your sauce. Like that's mine. What do you have?
Okay, mine is somewhat similar. So I would want a holster for McDonald's French fries and then a little cup for my ketchup. And I don't know if you've seen some of the billboards McDonald's has done. They've done a really nice job about unlocking kind of usage occasions because we're a busy family, but I try to eat healthy. We don't frequent McDonald's very often, but every time we're on a road trip, it's McDonald's time.
Same.
And do you know how hard it is to eat your French fries, dipping them into ketchup while I'm trying to keep my hands on the wheel?
You can't do that.
No.
Right? And you're not ordering a salad either, right?
At McDonald's, no.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, they have them, right?
I know, but that's not why I go to McDonald's.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. Cool. All right, Erin, those great icebreakers, great vibe check. So appreciate your insights. Great to get to know you and have the audience get to know you a bit. So we're going to move on now to our quick hit topics.
Okay. Let's do this.
All right, so let's do our little quick hit topics. So these are just, noteworthy, newsworthy topics. Kind of get your initial reaction on some of these stories that have hit the headlines here in the last couple of weeks. So Toys R Us. All right, Toys R Us, they're making this slow and steady resurrection. It's continuing. They've added and are planning to add nearly 30 additional stores, right? So they had bankruptcy, they kind of went away. Somebody kind of kept a hold of the brand, and then now they're starting to bring it back. And so I think a lot of toy companies are probably getting excited about, having another retailer to have for distribution. So I'm personally excited about it. I definitely grew up as a Toys R Us kid. My kids were Toys R Us kids. I could actually sing the song, but I will spare everyone involved with singing it. And have spent a ton of time in Toys R Us stores. So, my question for you is, are you a Toys R Us kid? And do you think Toys R Us can make that, come back, all the way back?
Definitely, I'm a Toys R Us kid. Again, I have those visceral memories of walking through the high aisles with a wonder and seeing, what toy can I convince my parents to buy. I think it is a fantastic brand to reboot. I do think that they need to make some careful considerations. Obviously, with nostalgia being really in the kind of cultural conversation right now, especially the 90s with all the Red Lobster and TGI Fridays come back. I think that nostalgic trend really informs the why now. Right. Why now should Toys R Us come forward? Hopefully they just use that nostalgia trend for the timing and not necessarily the strategic lever for how they come back, because I don't think nostalgia is enough of a strategy to make them win. And I think they have a real opportunity to look at the new consumer and understand, in a world of where choice and convenience is on the click of a button, what really is the opportunity for an in-store toy retailer to deliver. And I think they have a lot of really good proxies. If you look at the Jellycat Cafe in New York, the American Doll whole day experience. And I think the one that is really interesting is Build-A-Bear. And I actually just did some research for a German toy brand that I partner with. And Build-A-Bear has had tremendous rapid success since COVID.
Yeah, it was surprising.
Stock went from $1 to $70 in less than 5 years. And I actually just looked up, they're on track for over $500 million in revenue and record profits. But when you really start to dissect what they do and where Toys R Us has the opportunity to apply, it's not about a warehouse of toys. And even I would say it's not even really about just a brand shop within a shop. They do some really interesting things. It's very based off of a ritual, or it's a celebration, or it's a process that they invite their users to step into. And throughout that ritual, they leave with a token, the bear. But what they really are selling is a memory. And so that's where Toys R Us has an opportunity to say, how do I create this space and create this immersive, sensorial, holistic ritual that allows their customers to create these core memories in a way that Amazon can't do. So, I mean, some really cool ideas would be, how do you have scavenger hunt birthday parties? Or how do you create a ceremony or certificate when a kid buys their first bike? Or the other thing Build-A-Bear does is, I think I saw 40% of their audience is not kids. They're teens and adults. Yeah. So Toys R Us Kids, it goes back to your kidulting.
Yes, absolutely. I was thinking about kidulting. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so kid is more figurative than literal. And so how do you service the whole life cycle of a consumer? So I think it's really, how do they go really deep and not so broad in their activation?
Yeah, I think of it in I think most retail can do this, and I think Toys R Us has an opportunity to do this especially well, is this experiential discovery, right? So we're talking about discovery all the time. How do you discover new products, new brands? And then you have this opportunity with experiential, like how do you make that immersive and engaging experience that, to your point, becomes memorable for that shopper and and the adult, or, the adult, the kid, the combination of the two, bringing them together and make it a special moment. So if Toys R Us can tap into that, I think they have an opportunity to build something really special, to your point, not just another place to buy toys.
Yeah, that's right. And I hope what they don't do is just rely on the really powerhouse brand franchises to kind of bring those more fragmented, isolated experiences to life, and that they actually look at a holistic kind of integrated experience. But I also love what you said. It's like, this is an opportunity to connect people, to bring community, to give me something as a mom that I can relate to with my son. And then we walk out with a shared memory. I mean, that's really powerful.
Yeah, those are very powerful moments for sure. All right. Let's move on to a slightly different topic. Apple. Okay. So we're going to talk about Apple. Apple dropped a $229 phone sock, right? And so they call it the iPhone Pocket. It's a premium sock for your phone. I think there's one that hangs on your arm, and then one that's kind of like a sling, a sling bag. I think that's probably the more expensive one, is the sling bag. And so it's like, I know you're into fashion, right? You're definitely someone who has an eye for fashion, and this was done by a fashion label, Issey Miyake. And so the idea was really creating an additional pocket, right? So I don't have enough pockets. And obviously a lot of clothing, women's clothing, don't have a lot of pockets, right? Typically, right? Unless there's something specific about it. And so, like, is this really a product that can really, is it solving a problem? What are your thoughts around this whole thing? Like, the internet's gone a buzz, social media's gone a buzz about, this is stupid, this is crazy. Is it really stupid and crazy?
No, it is stupid and crazy.
Okay. Is it the price? Like, if it was $19.99, it would be, oh, well, this is cool.
Well, I think there's a couple things, and I think they're really in this mushy middle, which is actually what's making them so memeable right now.
Right.
I think I see what they were trying to do. They're trying to assert that Apple is a design house, and that extends to how you can wear your iPhone, or transitioning your iPhone into a wearable. And it does have some really nice kind of historical legacy roots. The designer, the Issey Miyake, he designed Steve Jobs' famous black turtleneck. So when you start to kind of uncover the layers, it is kind of interesting, but I think it was the wrong time, and it ends up coming a little tone deaf. So it's incredibly expensive for what people are calling a but
it's fashion from a designer, right? Those things are expensive,
right? But I think what's happening is there's a couple of things. If it's obviously not a revenue driver, so they're not going to make or break their quarterly earnings from the sock. So then you have to assume it's a PR strategy, which we're talking about it. But to be a productive PR strategy to move the brand forward and make sure it doesn't become a meme, you either need to be so functional it changes behavior, like it's so innovative, or you need to be so poignant that you are making a point. And the mismatch here is it's design, but is it really a function that serves a problem that is currently not solved? I wear jeans. I put my pocket in my jeans. Or as a fashion person, my bag, my purse as a woman is more of what I want to express. And so it feels like they're appealing more to this elitist and this fashion house, which that is not Apple's tribe. That's not their audience. Their audience are creators. They're builders. They are people who want something that is so beautifully designed, it seamlessly almost disappears and integrates into their everyday life. Or you and me, the everyday person, that it's worth paying more for because the functionality is so good. And the Apple sock doesn't do either one of those things. So I think they've lost the plot a little.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a fun thing. I think you're right. I think, and I also thought about, like, is Apple just trolling us, right? How much are you willing to pay for a sock that has things around your shoulder?
A belt holster for your phone would have been funnier. Like, if you're going to go funny or ironic, lean harder.
But Apple accessories cost a lot anyway, like compared to, other brands, right? And so if you're going to buy the Apple version of an Apple Watch band or a case for your phone, you're going to pay a lot more. Now, this is, significantly more. probably at least 10x more,
right.
But it's definitely a lot more. So yeah, good points there for sure, and love how you kind of broke that down. All right, so with our third and final quick hit, let's talk about Doug McMillan stepping down. He's retiring. I believe it's February of 2026, and so he's been in that role as CEO of Walmart for, basically as long as I've been in shopper marketing.
2014, I think.
Yeah. So just about as long as I've been in it. And it's like, what are some of the things you'll remember about, Doug's tenure as CEO?
First, I don't think it's a surprise to us. I think the man deserves hopefully a really good vacation after this. But I am sad because it gave me a moment to kind of reflect back on his tenure with Walmart. And when I think he took over, it was at a really make or break pivot point for Walmart. I mean, of course it was successful, but it had the risk of really becoming the next Kmart or Sears, becoming a dinosaur. And, Doug took the opportunity to kind of pump the brakes, pause, and really build a strategy that would take them into relevancy for decades to come.
Yeah.
And he had to do that by telling the board and then ultimately telling Wall Street that they were going to make significant investments and the stock price would take a hit. And we know Wall Street does not like short-term pain, but he stepped up and said, we need to invest in our digital, in our tech infrastructure. We need to invest in our people. And this will deliver a legacy of Walmart that is going to withstand the encroachment of Amazon. Yeah. And he's successfully done that. And so I think you see a really balanced leader that can manage for the short term effectively because he's a high humanity leader. He's incredibly approachable. He is charismatic and welcoming and kind and able to communicate the why when it doesn't always make sense on the short term business numbers. Yeah. And then he has successfully brought Walmart in to 2025 and handing off a very different business than he was handed to John Furner that really is going to just accelerate them into the automation and AI revolution.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely been a great journey to see or reflect upon for Walmart. Not everything was a hit over that period of time. But, acquiring jet.com, I think that really helped them from e-commerce. Obviously, jet.com doesn't exist, but I think
the infrastructure,
what they learned from the e-commerce space is definitely fueling a lot of their e-commerce success that they're having today. I think, he's been able to allow Walmart to kind of change their position from that. Yes, they're still, everyday low prices, but they've also been able to reach a more affluent shoppers that would probably in the past have not focused on Walmart as a shopping destination and brought more high income shoppers into it as well. And that's not easy to do, right? To change a position where everybody thinks that, oh, well, that's where I go just to get my groceries. And
I'm not
going to buy a bunch of cheap stuff. I'm not going to buy my fashion there. Right. But they've done a lot of great work in the fashion space, right? Yeah. And not to start a whole comparison, but you kind of look at Target and how Target has kind of taken a seat back. Like Target used to be where everybody goes for fashion. Walmart now is becoming, much more known for that, and Target less for that. So it's really interesting to see them navigate the currents. And like I said before, some things were hits, some things were not, but they always seem to be learning, right? And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate and admire about, the organization that Doug led was an organization that continued to learn, move fast, kept core to their values,
absolutely,
but still continue to build upon that. So I obviously wish him the best success in whatever his next chapter looks like. But definitely one of the best runs of a CEO for a company that the size of Walmart that I've witnessed, especially in my lifetime.
100%.
So great.
Yeah. I mean, John, I'm excited to see what John does.
Yes. Yeah.
And
we have lots of time to talk about John in the future, right?
That's true. We do.
Yeah. So it's great. So, all right. Well, that ends Quick Hit. So appreciate your thoughts there. So we're going to now move over to our main topics. All right, our first main topic, we're going to talk about shoppers, right? And I've really had this fascination with like changes in behavior. And honestly, like I learned that when I was at Saatchi and working with you, honestly, about, shopper behavior and motivations and, how those behaviors impact how we work, how we communicate and market and advertise to shoppers. But there's been a lot of change. I guess there's been a lot of change over the last 10 years but a lot of change even over the last 2 years. COVID was a lot of change, but, I would say that overall, like shoppers today are overwhelmed, they're distracted, and they're moving faster and faster. It feels like just things keep continuing to accelerate. And their attention, jumps between screens and micro moments, right? And so they're on their tablets, they're on a TV, they got their phone in their hands, they're, engaging in so many different, digital and physical experiences and floating in between, all of those all the time. And now we've included now AI, right? So AI is a whole nother layer of, ways that, are going to pull attention away from shoppers, right? And really have obviously an impact on behavior, right? There's no doubt about that, right? And, with all of that stimulation, they want everything real time. And it's just such a big change with what people are seems like what people are doing. It used to be so simple back in the day, right? So I always sometimes I think about, what was it like in the 50s, 60s, 70s as an advertiser, right? It was so simple.
It was hard, yeah.
Right? You have a TV.
Yep.
Yeah, print. Maybe a billboard, maybe some advertising in the store, depending on how it went. But it was so simple, right? And as an advertiser and a marketer, you had those channels, you learn those channels. Now you got like 52,000 different channels, all these micro moments, multiple social media networks. People are spending time in gaming, people are spending time on social, they're watching TV, they have their phones in their hands. Right. And so it's like even it overwhelms me just thinking about it. I can only imagine what the shopper, how they're feeling. But according to McKinsey, U.S. consumers now spend 13 hours a day with media.
Ooh.
That's a lot of hours per day. And a lot of times it's multitasking, right? It's not just, a single form of media. And their average screen attention. Now, this one blew me away, actually. Has dropped from over the last few years, has dropped from 2.5 minutes to 47 seconds, right? So that is a very significant decline in attention span. And I'm self-professed ADD. I know my attention span bounces around quite a bit. And so I can only, imagine. So it's really have a huge impact, I think in, how an advertiser can reach this audience and the expectations around reaching this audience. I think things are so fragmented now. How do you even plan to reach and actually make that, behavior change, right? That's what shopper marketing is all about, is behavior change. How can you even do that? And when people are spending very little time, when they are spending time on something and they're switching around, context switching constantly, it's just, it's like I said before, it's really overwhelming. But, how many media channels do you think you engage with on a daily basis, just to start it out?
Oh, that's a really great question. I probably don't even know, but I mean, anything from a podcast to a recipe blog that I linked on through Pinterest, to short YouTubes and trying to learn how to pronounce fancy designer names for the Apple sock, to maybe reading an email newsletter from my select few kind of thought leaders that I really respect, and then kind of, deselecting all the rest, from doom scrolling TikTok. And then even just driving around and seeing what's around us. So I can't even imagine how many.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say, for me, on my phone, social, work on my laptop, YouTube a lot. YouTube is big for me for sure. But it's also happening all the time. I'll have the TV on watching a football game or something, or my wife will have Wicked on, and I'll be on my phone watching a YouTube video at the same time. So it's like, where am I really spending my attention? And if I'm an advertiser, where do I put that ad if I'm trying to reach that individual? And it's just so overwhelming. Do you ever get to that point of sufficiency where you're actually making that behavioral impact that you intend to make? Can you only do that in big moments, like, like a Super Bowl commercial where everybody's paying attention, everybody's locked in, and there's still probably multitasking going on, but it's still most of the attention is being paid to one place. It just seems like it's obviously more difficult than ever to really drive behavior change. If you were a brand, let's say, your brand, your new brand, and you are trying to, reach this fragmented, distracted, shopper, what would be some things you would try to consider to, make the impact that you intend to do with advertising?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think all of the tools that we have as marketers, as far as tactics and media placement, they're so prolific that they have left us with a very overstimulated, cognitively deficient, decision fatigued shopper. And their brains are really good at deselecting out all of the noise and coming up with some shortcut behaviors that aren't necessarily good for business. And so I always, when we have conversations with brands about this, most often brands want to come in and say, okay, what is the magical formula or combination of tactics that is going to decrease my CAC and increase my my revenue? And the tools are the tools. Every brand, every marketer has access to the same tools. And I always say, if someone's selling you the perfect formula, they're lying, and run as fast as you can. But where you have a real opportunity to connect with this new consumer who is looking for less noise, they're looking for more meaning in their life, more connection, more community. They're looking ways to express kind of the human condition, is so much less in the tactics, but it's really before that. It's one, knowing who your audience is. And I'm not talking from a demographic side. I'm talking from a heart and soul side. What are their values? What do they care about? What keeps them up at night? Who are they? You
want to speak to them.
Yes. And you want to authentically connect the heart and soul of your brand in areas and ways that they already intrinsically care about. And that's not a list of functional benefits. So it's understanding who you are as a brand at a higher order. If your brand had a soul, if your brand had a heart, if your brand could shortcut why this product was created, what problem does it relieve for your audience, then that is where the meaning and the connection happens with your niche audience that cares about the same thing. So it becomes about hyper strategy and focus on your audience and who you are as a brand at your core. Get that right, then pick the mediums, of course, or the channels where your audience is, but pick the channels that celebrate that message, that allows that message to live and breathe. And you're not competing then in the same noisy mess for clicks.
But even if you are, you have a better chance to connect, right? So you can cast a net, a wide net, and maybe catch a couple of fish. But if you're like more focused and you're fishing with a single line, you got the right bait, you're going to get a much bigger fish, typically, right? And so, from that standpoint, one of the things I've always tried to consider, and I'm a huge hype marketer. I love the hype. I get involved in the hype. I really get really engaged in what's going on and the excitement around things. But I've always tried to think about from time to time is like, do you zig when other people zag, right? And so if everybody's spending all this money and time on one channel, maybe your best opportunity is to go to a different channel, right? And everybody's talking about, social and connected TV and all of these things. Well, maybe direct mail is an opportunity for you, right? And like, I think you've got to open your mind to look at the white space as well. And, I agree with you from a brand and making sure your message is connecting and has a soul and it's really resonating. It's hard to do that in less than a second's worth of time. Like I remember watching my niece's friend on her phone going through Instagram stories. And she's just beep, 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 tap, tap, beep, and it's just like going through and like, you don't have the time to really make a lot of connection with somebody when they are just looking for something that disrupts them. Right. And then if you catch them, you only have like a second or two to hold that attention and maybe get your message across or a part of the message across, right? So it's crazy. So look for those, I think just like looking for those white spaces. And I think also being unified in your message, right? Like ensuring that you're kind of thinking of things from a storyline all the way through, simulating what that consumer experience should be from point A to point Z and what those potential touch points are. Like the reality is nobody's going through it from A to Z. But even if you just think about, okay, what, when they get up in the morning, and they listen to the radio, like, okay, what does the ad sound like? Does it link to maybe if they see the billboard on their way to work, and if they're surfing, at lunchtime and they see an ad, right? Like, or they're checking
on your lunchtime, Phoebe?
I surf all the time. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Internet surf. It sounds so old, right? The information superhighway. It's a real thing. But, making sure that story, because, repetition obviously leads to memory, right? And, one commercial that I hate the most, but I appreciate its, what it does is the Cars for Kids commercial.
I don't even know this commercial.
It's
okay. Tell us.
Cars for Kids. So I appreciate what it does, but like the song is one of those, it's basically on like a nursery rhyme type song, and like Cars for Kids. Anyway, and they play it over and over again, right? And so I know Cars for Kids regardless, and I actually try to skip away, and if I have any chance to skip away, I try to skip away from it. But it obviously has made an impact, right? It's I don't think I've ever given a car to Cars for Kids. I don't think, but anyway, it's so. That all being said, I think, that opportunity for, repetition and that messaging to hit your audience and have that unified communication does allow you for that opportunity, and look for not only digital channels, but also, physical opportunities as well, like out of home.
Yes. I would put a little bit more nuance on repetition. I absolutely think cohesion is important. But I actually think now, instead of maybe more kind of the special number of 7 frequency is the magical mark where people remember you. It's more about creating holistic brand worlds. So yes, you need a unifying brand platform. And that gets back to knowing your tribe, knowing the problem you solve, knowing your heart and soul. And that should show up. But how that shows up in the specific message points, I think is more about creating a multidimensional lived experience that may not come across in literal repetitive words, but more in a brand experience, in a holistic brand experience. And I think smaller disruptive brands are doing a really good job at this because they are so niche. Their growth is at a much smaller scale. They can do this in a way where they're not relying on repetition. They're relying on depth and texture. But it's built off of a cohesive brand promise. But how they bring that to life is like dialed up or dialed down, depending on the touch point in the message conversation.
Yeah, it's good storytelling.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yes, there's plateaus, there's valleys, there's highs, there's lows. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, well, let's move on to the next topic. We probably talked about that for probably a whole nother hour, but we're going to move on to the next topic. And so secondhand shopping is on the rise. Not that it actually went away, but it's getting a lot of attention.
It is getting a ton of attention, and it's really in the mainstream. It's not just thrift store shopping anymore. It's really, intentional shopping. I think value is a big part of it. I think sustainability plays a role here as well. And then I think there's obviously some discovery element of it, right? And so like if you go to a store, they have a selection. You go to a secondhand store, you don't know really what that selection is going to be. And there is some excitement around the hunt, right? Trying to find a specific item, or you don't know what you're going to find, and then you find it, and it's like, this is a great, perfect thing. And in some cases, it may be at a good value as well. And so I think, around 70%, according to eBay, 70% of people plan to buy used items this year. And then over 86% participated in resale in the last 12 months. So buying or selling. And then even related to this, and, we're into the gift giving season now, but secondhand gifting is surging. According to NASDAQ, 74% say it's more accepted, and 83% are open to receiving, used gifts. So that's really, like, that used to be such a faux pas, right? Like, there's, regifting, if you will, or, and obviously certain categories, I think would have, different attitudes. Like there are different attitudes towards, regifting, or secondhand, gifts as well. Some of the top categories, electronics, which makes sense, right? iPads, phones, TVs, etc. Books, which it's really interesting. I was reading that, that books have actually made a comeback, physical books. And so like there's there used to be the Kindle surge, right? And then Barnes and Noble is doing really well as well, right? And so books are definitely one that gets regifted or bought and sold on a resale market. Fashion, home decor, sporting goods, which I think all of these kind of made sense, right? Very very intuitive. And then Facebook Marketplace now has integrated eBay and Poshmark listings into Facebook Marketplace.
That's great.
Yeah, so that allows
super smart.
Yeah, I mean it's extension of those platforms into the social channel, right?
Well, and I really think that's probably how Facebook has managed to continue to have their younger users is through the marketplace integration,
right?
And they're understanding that the Gen Z has migrated some of the secondhand shopping beyond just the physical store into the Poshmark, the Depop. Correct. I think that was wise of them.
Right. And I think you and I both are cool with resale, right? And buying secondhand, or used product. And I like it's a great opportunity to get something you may not be able to get somewhere else, right? Or it's sold out somewhere, or the product is no longer available. You can get that on the secondhand market. And also sometimes it's an opportunity to get something at a little less cost.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Or pay more, it depends. So you actually are wearing something today.
I am in honor of this conversation
that you bought in the secondhand market. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Yeah. I'm wearing, I think it's 80s. I could not date it. It's from the 80s, but it's vintage Oscar de la Renta.
Oh, wow.
And I bought it at the Springdale Goodwill for probably less than $10.
Wow.
And you know what I noticed this morning? It has a little bit of a stain on it, which normally I would not wear a dress with a stain on it, but I feel like it's okay because the piece has a story behind it. And when else am I going to be able to wear an Oscar de la Renta dress? And I did a little digging, looked online to see if I could find the dress. I found one eBay posting, just one. And I searched for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, of course you did.
One eBay posting with the same dress. So in theory, I could be one of two people wearing this dress. And talk about someone who appreciates fashion and beauty and design and that ability to express originality in this day and age where our influencers and AI content all look flat and the same. that's a special gift that I think only the secondhand market or extraordinarily amounts of money is going to give you.
Yeah. Yeah. And today I have on a pair of Travis Scott Air Jordan 1s. And so these are basically these are $1,000 sneakers new. Well,
did you pay more than $1,000?
The original retail price was not $1,000, but they're very limited. So if you want to buy a new version of this on the secondhand market, a pair of these goes for over $1,000. So,
wow.
But I kept my eyes open and I watched listings, and I found a pair that was gently used. For a much lower price.
Love it.
not $10 like you got from for your dress, but it was at a lower price, right? And I think something like sneakers, you should be wearing your sneakers,
right?
And so
they're not art pieces.
Well, some are, right? I think they are, honestly, but for the most part, like the sneakers are meant to be worn. You're going to take a new shoe out of a box and you're going to put it on your feet and you're going to run out the door anyway, the first minute. As long as the condition is good, and the price is good, then we have a match. But I think especially in the sneaker market, it's all about authenticity as well, right? And so you don't want to spend a significant amount of money on something that not be authentic. So it has to go through an authentication process. So you have these secondary markets, these secondary platforms that, authenticate the products. Like eBay is one I've used quite a bit. Goat is the one I bought these through as well. So, the owner will, make the listing and go, and then you buy, and then it goes to Goat. Goat will verify it and make sure that it is authentic, and then it'll ship it on to you. So, there's, that opportunity as well. So, it provides a service to be able to get something that you probably couldn't get before. There's no way I was going to be able to get these, at the time of release. Unfortunately, it's just very difficult with certain types of shoes. But it does provide that value. When you're a brand, like, it's interesting, right? Because the brand is obviously selling the product at a retail price at the original sale. But then the person who has it then has an opportunity to sell it again, right? And in cases like these shoes, that obviously they went for way higher than retail, and so they're making a profit on it, I'm assuming. And are the brands really missing out on an opportunity? Because, like, should they be buying back these products and then reselling them? Or
I hope not.
I know it's like it's like where does a brand play in this in the secondhand market?
Oh, it's a really good question. I mean, I think I don't know the answer to that, BB. I have some maybe offshoot thoughts, but I think what was really interesting about your Travis Scott shoe story is, one, that there was a story to tell and that it helped extend your identity and your commitment to being a sneakerhead. It acts as your badge of honor that you're on the inside of that kind of tribe or subculture. And it doesn't shortcut to me because I'm not in that audience, but we still connected over the time you invested, the journey. Again, it's creating that meaning and that moment to connect. And I also found it very interesting that the authentication process, it relies on this level of kind of trust and this added layer that you're kind of allowing a proxy to make that authentication, which we just kind of shortcut when we're buying a product directly from the brand site. So if I would to think about it through a strategic lens, I don't know if literally they need to participate in the secondhand market. And it's more about how do they make their products and their brand secondhand market worthy. So again, it's, can they create those stories and those textures and those moments to connect and build through that trust and that more intangible value that connects with a community that would facilitate that secondhand market, because that's going to give long-term brand equity value.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So it's more of the relationship game than the transactional revenue game.
Yeah, I mean, it still comes back to hype marketing in a lot of ways, right? And so how much hype will drive the value, and obviously supply and demand, restricting that. But all right, let's get off of that for a second and just really talk about the sustainability side of things, because obviously that is a big trend. There's a lot of opportunity. I feel like sometimes people there's just so many clothing items out there. Like, do we need all these clothing items? Why are stores stocking all of these clothes? Don't we already have enough clothes?
Right.
And so, like, where do you see like the role that sustainability plays in this trend?
I absolutely think it's a reaction to the fast fashion trend, specifically in your apparel, and how before they used to have maybe 2, maybe 3 seasons of clothing rollouts. And now that hype cycle, I don't even know, from a Temu or Zara and Amazon, I mean, it's got to be within days. They are shifting these trends and trying to react to the flash in the pan hype cycle of social media. So I definitely think it is a pushback to that overconsumption, but I also think it has a couple of added layers to that. Obviously, if I'm buying secondhand, that acts as a shortcut, that I either care about the value I'm getting, the sustainability, or potentially the originality. It's again, that reaction to that sameness culture, but either way, it acts as a badge of my moral, my values, my belief systems.
How many secondhand gifts are you going to give this season?
Okay, so this is interesting. Probably none. But here's why: because I am a busy
shot down the whole story in one.
No, but I think there's an interesting idea here. I don't think I am the person who's going to give this, because you know what it requires is a lot of time. And I think that's where that gift holds so much value. And I see people are giving what they're calling like these thrifted, like gift sets, where they're taking, like, they're getting a book, they're getting a costume piece of jewelry, they're maybe getting a little housewares, then they're wrapping it up in a secondhand vintage scarves, which silk scarves are having a major moment.
All right. I didn't know that.
And then giving this one-of-a-kind gift. And what that says to the receiver, to me, is like, wow, you really know me. You really took the time. You really care about me. And wow, do you have style and discernment? Because you were able to craft and curate and collect these one-of-a-kind meanings. So I don't have the time to do that. I love you, BV, but I just am not going to give you the time for your Christmas gift this year.
That's unfortunate.
I know.
Maybe next time.
Maybe.
I think for me, it depends on what I'm hunting for, right? If I, am looking for, a piece of electronics that, my son might need.
Yes, electronics is
then
great.
I might consider that there. If one pair of sneakers actually I've had my eye on there's a Wizard of Oz Nike Dunk Low that's there, and I wanted to get it for my daughter.
Wait, how girly is it? Do I need to get this for my son?
It shows it's the poppy field a little bit. So it's a red and flower.
Okay, I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah. So anyway, like, I might get that in it, because you can get a little lower price, if it's in good condition. A lot of it obviously comes down to condition. So I think it kind of comes back to the categories that you would typically think of that are ideal for secondhand, and I think, as long as you don't portray it as being new, what I mean? Like, that's the other thing too. Like, I got you this nice new gift, and but it's clearly secondhand. You probably don't want to do that. But I think if it's good condition, usable, hits the spot of what they're looking for, I think it's a great idea.
And it feels uniquely them. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on now to our third topic today, the analog comeback. So
I'm excited for this one.
Yeah. Again, nostalgia is important to me, and I think we talked a lot about so much time being spent on the digital side that some of these analog experiences have become more enriching. I believe, right? And so shoppers are finding comfort in things that they feel physical, intentional, like records or vinyl, film cameras, print books. We were talking about that a little bit ago. Stationery, that like actually taking out
and writing an actual note in cursive.
That's one I struggle with a bit, but I understand people who like to do that. Like all that stuff is surging, especially even with younger shoppers, not old folks like me necessarily, but definitely younger shoppers. The analog experience is, gives them more texture, presence, right? So again, not distracted with 1,800 things going on all around you. You're focused, you're present, and it gives you a chance to slow down. And then you throw AI into it, and now AI is like, we've got all of this content being created via AI, and it's just inundating people with all this digital content. And so it's like taking that step back and like reclaiming the physical world, reclaiming your mental state, potentially, and so this is so cool to see some of these things that I grew up with are now making that comeback. Even tapes and records,
absolutely,
and even CDs for those that are a little bit like some of that stuff. It has come back for sure. Vinyl continues to sell big time. Over 44 million records were sold last year. Film cameras are up, significantly as well. Print books are up 23% versus 10 years ago. And so like all of this stuff is really kind of coming around. And are we going to go back in time and do it all? No, of course not. But I think there is definitely a group or a growing trend in this area that I think people are kind of using it as almost like escapism to a certain degree from all of the other stuff that's going on. And people are paying big bucks for art as well, and
especially
like
Gen Z.
Art. Yeah, physical art. Like, just not too long ago, I felt like we were talking about these NFTs and people buying Bored Ape NFTs for millions of dollars. And now that's pretty much gone away. And those obviously don't value as much as they used to. And now people are spending, hundreds of millions of dollars on a piece of art. So it's definitely coming back. What do you really feel like are the drivers of this? I know I've touched on a few, but
sure.
If you had other thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're circling what the driver is. I mean, first of all, the over digital consumption, the constant AI, the massive time we're spending on our screens, and you partner that with kind of the mental health crisis.
Yeah.
And so obviously our obsession as brands and retailers and marketers of creating what we consider frictionless, seamless, hyper convenience environment is maybe that's what the shoppers thought that they wanted, but it's not necessarily delivering the relief or the intrinsic value that they thought.
Yeah.
And so now if it's not frictionless, maybe it's intentional friction.
Yes.
That will give you purpose and value. And again, it goes back to that new consumer and what they want, that new shopper, what they want. They want less noise, they want more meaning, and they want a uniquely human experience. And analog options do that beautifully.
Right.
And it allows you to refocus your brain. And I mean, it's all about brain rot. So what if this is about unrotting your brain?
Unrotting. I like
yes,
that.
I actually tried to get the domain. www.unrotyourbrain.com, a Portuguese company. Already has it. Oh, wow. So if you want to sell it to me, let me know. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but
yeah. You hit on something there too that I thought was really interesting, is like that delayed gratification component, right? People are taking pictures with cameras, and you're not getting necessarily that instant photo, right? That on your phone that you see. Now some of them have a combination digital and film, but you have to wait for that film to be developed, and then you get the payoff, once that film is developed into pictures. One brand I was just thinking about that I think does a really good job of combining like the digital and the physical and kind of leans into the space a little bit is Lego. Right. Lego does such a great job with their media and, they're online, they're in a lot of different places. But at the end of the day, like, Legos and sitting down and doing a Lego set, you have that delayed gratification, right? As part of it. Right. It's the process, it's the mindfulness, right? I actually just started a Lego set in my office to give myself a little bit of a mental break. And so I've got Legos there no surprise to anybody. It's a Nike Lego set where it's, somebody dunking a ball and has a shoe and all that stuff. But like just thinking about like stepping, kind of sliding away from my computer and just going through the instructions with the Legos to kind of build this thing. And I'm not building it all at one day, right? It's that delayed gratification. There's going to be that appreciation what I've done, what I've completed. So you got that sense of accomplishment, right, at the end. And so I think Lego really, if I'm just thinking of a brand off the top of my head that I didn't really think about, planning for this was, Lego really seems to do a good job. And it also leans a little bit into this nostalgia side. Like Lego has been around for years. Like I've had, I had Legos when I was a kid, and that was a little while ago. And so I think Lego really does a great job. Are there any other like brands or, that you think do a good job of that?
Well, I think Lego is a great example. And actually, I will share an experience. I remember buying a Lego set for my son, who's now 10 years old. And this was maybe a couple of years ago. And I remember sitting down with him and building the Lego set, but the instructions were on an app or on the screen or on a website. Oh, okay. I actually, as a mother, did not like that because I'm always trying to come up with ways that are
mine was in a book.
This
is a book. So
yes, and now whether or not it was that particular variation, but now everything comes with a book or a digital instruction opportunity. And so I do love that they are giving you these options and they're not forcing me in one medium, because as a parent who is trying to manage obsessively my son's screen time and making sure he doesn't rot his brain, I really like having, again, those tangible tactical moments that don't involve a screen at all. So a brand, actually, it's more of a product, and it's fascinating to me, but it is a brand all at once that I think is doing a really good job, and I am the absolute target market. Have you heard of Tin Can?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, well, it is a corded phone for kids.
A corded, oh, okay, all right.
And it looks like a modern tin can. It has the twirly cord. The branding is so nostalgic but modern. It just really speaks to me as kind of a kid of the 80s and 90s and those kind of moments of being able to speak with my friends on the phone. What's great for me is, as a parent, I am trying to hold off on getting him a smartphone, hold off on giving him kind of unfettered access to the internet. But I also want to facilitate connections with his friends. And so the Tin Can is giving me this option to go analog, old school, and also it's encouraging community. Like you can buy multiple ones. But here's the kicker. I mean, it looks like a phone you and I would have had as a kid, and it would have cost, even at that time, maybe $15 at Walmart. And they are selling it for $75, and it is sold out until February.
Wow.
So it is obviously, from a functional and an emotional, meeting this analog desire or problem that we as parents, I am fighting every single day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a great way to, bring something like that solves a problem that I'm sure a lot of parents are dealing with, and when is the right time to give your child a way to communicate, with the outside world.
And I will say, so it acts as a landline, but you don't have to buy a telephone line. It works still through your internet, and you don't have to buy a plan if you can recruit other friends with a tin can. So it acts as like a literal tin can.
It's its own referral program.
Yes, exactly. So you can speak to fellow tin canners for free.
Awesome. Well, I think this is an amazing trend. I think it's definitely needed. I think like the mental weight that so many people carry through a lot of the information that they are receiving on an ongoing basis. It's like having a way to break away, get back to analog is definitely a trend that I think is one that should hopefully continue. And I like, I'm obviously really excited about leaning into myself.
I am too. And I think it actually holds some significant kind of weight for the future generations. I think, maybe call it time and knowledge were maybe kind of the currency of the class system. Now that information has completely been democratized, our ability to use our brains and discern and be critical thinkers will be the kind of status of the elite, intellectually elite.
Oh, wow.
Moving forward. I said it here first.
Yes.
So I think the only way to do that is through letting your brain breathe through analog experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you mentioned this earlier, like how, like, there's been like a thread of the topics today. And I think there really is, because I think it kind of paints that picture of what the consumer looks like today. They're overstimulated. They want authenticity. They want the ability to kind of disconnect at the same time. And, it's an interesting world we live in today, and society that we live in today that I think is really, changing how we behave. So, appreciate you talking through those topics with us. All right, Erin, that was a great run through of our big topics. And so as we get near the end of today's podcast, play a little game, have a little wrap up. And so, wanted to talk through any campaigns that you've seen out there that you really have your eye on. That right now. Yeah.
It's much less a campaign and more in these smaller brands that I tend to work with, and more how they come forward and alive in their world. And if you're familiar with Good Girl Snacks or Hot Girl Pickles, they've made pickles extremely cool for Gen Z, or actually Gen Z loves pickles, and they took an opportunity to make a product that connects uniquely with them. Gen Z creators, 2 friends, and they've actually documented their entire experience on social media, the highs and the lows.
Storytelling.
Oh,
wow.
Storytelling.
It's amazing that it's come back to storytelling.
And they're creating these immersive brand worlds with these darling brand characters that shortcut into emotive experiences. But I think that they're really taking their audience on a journey. They literally just launched in Whole Foods, and they had a whole TikTok video on all the things that went wrong. So they shared, they bought their first billboard and it was covered by a bush. They used the wrong tape in the PR packages. It was just so authentic. And before that, they said that they had $0 in paid media. So it shows you that these brand worlds are cost saving, but also meaningful to the right consumer that they connect with.
Wait, what was the name of the brand?
The brand is Good Girl Snacks, it's the Hot Girl Pickles.
Hot Girl Pickles. Yeah. And that's a spicy pickle?
They have different variations.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, it's good to get introduced to a new brand, and definitely we'll check that out. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of Retail Media Vibes. I want to thank our guest, Erin Campbell. Thanks for coming in and chatting it up with us today. Is there anything that you would like to plug before we wrap up today?
Sure. I mean, I'm in the process right now of building an advisory consulting firm for female founders. We're kind of not quite ready to fully have a coming out party, but I would encourage, if there are female founders out there, if there are people who support female founders in our Northwest Arkansas area, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to just connect with the community that's really looking to support these founders in this kind of really tough journey that they're about to embark on.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. I try to ask my guests, would you come back on the show at a later date? Would you come back?
I would, but only if you give me a thrifted care package.
Oh, wow. Okay, we're up in the game now. Yeah. Now, if I do that for you, I have to do it for everybody else.
Just for me.
Right? So blow up the budget. Okay. All right. Well, so if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, If you have a question or a comment, you can send those to retailmediavibes@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. And as always, I will do better next time. BV out.